I held shame that sometimes I caught myself not paying attention to people who were talking to me. Sometimes it happened by accident, where my mind would drift and wander. Sometimes I checked out on purpose.
Welcome back to the Experience of We. I'm Naomi.
And I'm Matthew.
And we are back with another relational micropractice. Relational micropractices are words, phrases, gestures that we can insert into the ongoing flow of a relationship to experience deeper connection, clear up misunderstandings, and overall enjoy a smoother relational experience. Or in the case of this one, incrementally build out our capacity to be in connection with each other over time. And so this micropractice, do you want to introduce it?
Yeah, sure. So this micropractice we call naming when we lose presence. And essentially, to give the story of this, in the early days of our relationship, Naomi and I were working on mindfulness. And initially, we were working on our mindfulness on our own.
We're in parallel mindfulness journeys.
Yeah. And so we were kind of grinding along with our mindfulness. And one day I was reading something and it named that most people frequently lose presence while having an active conversation with someone. And when I read that, I immediately knew I did that. I immediately knew that I had already known that I did that I held shame that sometimes I caught myself not paying attention to people who were talking to me. Sometimes it happened by accident, where my mind would drift and wander. Sometimes I checked out on purpose.
Yeah.
I had people in my life at the time where I might just choose to stop listening and kind of check back in and out at different intervals. And
Me too.
And instead of explicitly naming, I was losing presence because I didn't feel engaged by what we were talking about. But that's a more advanced version of this. So the main thing, once I came into awareness that I frequently lost presence while talking with people, I brought it to Naomi, and who said, "Oh my gosh, I do the same thing."
Yeah. It was honestly scary to realize just how much I was out of presence and therefore out of connection with the people around me, with people that I loved. And so, yeah, when Matthew brought it to me, it was like, I feel really behind, just automatically.
Right, because you had gotten into a habit of losing presence.
Yeah, definitely. And both, as Matthew said, unintentionally and also permissioning myself to do it in places I didn't feel engaged.
And so we both had the same challenge of losing presence while being in connection. And so we started working on it. And at first we were working on it individually, even though we were together. We were just trying to internally remind ourselves to remain present.
And I wasn't getting many places. I hit a plateau and it was low.
And I had a little bit more success than Naomi, and I was still having moments of challenge. And so we decided to make a relationship practice where each time we noticed that we had lost presence, we would just name it to each other. So maybe Naomi would be talking and I would notice my mind had wandered and I would say, "Naomi," at the first break, we try not to interrupt. I say, "Naomi, I lost presence. And I think I missed some of what you just said. And I'd like you to repeat that." That was really hard to start naming times when I had missed things. I noticed not wanting to name that I might have missed things.
Yeah, me too. When we first started the practice, I felt really ashamed every time I missed something. I felt anxiety that Matthew would think I didn't care about what he was saying. And so this is why coming to the explicit agreement between ourselves was so important for getting us accustomed to doing this. If we tried to do this without having a shared agreement to do it, it could be really hard to get over that hurdle of anxiety and guilt and other things because the person on the other end might respond with blame or shame or something like that. And so it also became this process of trusting each other more deeply. And so as we talk about this practice of naming when we've lost presence, it's something that we can do with people that we haven't formed an explicit agreement with, depending on who they are. There are some people who it would probably trigger if we did it without an explicit agreement. And so we can kind of feel into our relationships and sort of feel into where we might have that opportunity. But really, the practice is at its most powerful when it's agreed upon together because it gets to be this reinforcing feedback loop where every time Matthew names it to me, I feel a little bit less shame next time I need to name it to Matthew. And at first the reps came very quickly because we all lost presence often. Our attention span is like a muscle.
Hmm. Yeah.
It needs to be exercised to really have endurance. And so at first we got a lot of opportunities to practice, and then fewer and fewer as time has gone on. But we still practice this. This is a part of our day-to-day relationship.
Yeah. And it's so important, if you make an explicit agreement to name when you lose presence together. It's really important to learn to have grace, both for the person who lost presence and for yourself, because there in the early days we both experienced impact from this. Naomi would name that she lost presence, and I might have a moment of annoyance.
Yeah.
I might lose presence, and Naomi would have a moment
Of forgetting what I was even going to say because I was having my own trigger.
yeah. And I think your trigger was something along the lines of, what I'm saying isn't important,
Yeah.
or I'm not saying something intelligent or
Yeah,
worth
that
hearing.
that resonates.
And so my annoyance was actually that too. Like the annoyance was a layer on top of the insecurity,
Yeah.
where it was kind of like, now, like, oh, she doesn't think what I'm saying is important. Well, now I'm angry. And for you, it was, he doesn't think what I'm saying is important. I feel anxious. And so being able to navigate those bumps when we first started doing it, because Naomi would notice if I felt annoyed. And so I would have to say, I notice I feel annoyed that you lost presence. And also, I'm grateful that you told me that you lost presence. And I'm more than willing to share whatever you missed from what I said. And that's the sort of clunky manual version of picking up connection that has been dropped when we lose presence.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And it starts out with clunks. And if we can just be emotionally honest with each other about what's coming up and not fall into cycles of blame and guilt, um, the it really starts to have an impact and pick up steam over time.
Hmm.
And so this is one of those practices that's very easy to say, very easy to name, very easy to say what you do. Notice when your attention's drifted, name it, ask someone to repeat it, engage in conversation about why you might have lost presence. It's,
Hmm.
or what you lost presence to. It's a very simple thing to say, but doing it is like a rabbit hole to
Hmm.
go down. But coming out with a lot more groundedness on the other side.
Yeah. And there's always good data when we lose presence, relational data, we like to say. So, a couple for instances, Naomi, when we take walks, especially when we started this practice, we'd be taking a walk and she'd lose presence and her head would turn. And it was almost always because you were noticing something beautiful in the environment.
Yeah. Yeah. Birds and houses and trees and things.
Hmm. And so, that would pull her out of presence. And for me, uh, she would be talking, and I'd suddenly have what to me seemed to be like either an interesting thought, oh, something interesting occurred to me, or some anxiety would occur to me. Oh, that social situation that I experienced. I said something to someone, and I'm not sure how it landed. Oh, uh-oh, I'm worried about. Wait, what did Naomi say? Oh, hey Naomi, I lost presence. I was worried that someone thought I said something stupid.
Yeah, yeah, that definitely comes up for both of us.
Yeah. And so that actually is those represent opportunities. And so now if Naomi loses presence because something beautiful is in our environment while we're taking a walk, I want to see it. Oftentimes it's a beautiful bird or a tree or a lovely landscape.
Right, or a doggy. Sometimes it's a doggy.
Sometimes it's a doggy.
Yeah.
For sure.
And similarly, if Matthew's experiencing anxiety about something, I want to know and hold a minute and process it together if there's anything to process.
Yeah. And so uh, one of the things that we develop from this is a kind of shared awareness of what is happening with each other, which is what presence is supposed to give you, like shared presence. And so, when we started this practice, we lost presence with each other frequently, very, very frequently. And now we very, very rarely lose presence. And when we do, it usually means that there's something that we should both be thinking about together. And so loss of presence ends up being a cue for us to redirect our shared presence to whatever is coming up with the other person.
Yeah.
And that's an example of how this practice can grow.
Yes, exactly. And in the beginning, it's just that practice of coming to a shared agreement to do this and then naming when we've noticed we've lost presence. It starts as simple as that, and it can get very powerful.
And one of the cool things is that the act of naming that we've lost presence brings us back to presence.
Yeah, exactly. It gives us something to do with our presence. That's one thing about presence, is that it needs somewhere to go. It can't just be like, be present. Well, to what? What am I being present to? It needs somewhere to go. But now I'm getting into the weeds of presence, and I feel like that's a whole different kind of video.
Yeah. I agree. And so yeah, we invite you as a call to action. If you want to maybe go to someone that you know and say, if you want to take on such a practice of coming to presence, choose someone, ask them if they'd like to do it with you, and just start practicing together. And even if you either can't find someone, or you're not, it can be challenging to go to someone and ask them to do a presence practice with you. And so if you don't have someone, at the very least, you can train yourself to notice when you've lost presence and just keep doing that. And it may be slower going, sort of building that presence muscle may be slower going when you're doing it by yourself, but you'll still be working on it. And it's really just a matter of reps.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we are glad to join you to talk about the kinds of reps that we do. We hope some of them suit you too.
So I think I'm complete for now. How about you?
Yeah. We will see you next time.
Bye for now.
Bye.